Hello there, YouTube. My name is B3, and I'm bringing you another episode of Safari Sam today. I'm not gonna do the character today. Normally I do a whole character. Safari Sam, the depressed, divorced animal guy. I'm not doing that today because it just doesn't feel proper. Because today we are talking about something sad. We are talking about the death of some animals, gastropods specifically. If that is going to make anyone uncomfortable, this is your cue to leave. But I kind of did the character voice when I talked about my Triops colony failing, and I've felt weird about that since. I've just it just didn't feel right. I regret doing that. So whenever I break the news of animal passing, I'm not gonna do the voice. I'm not gonna do the voice. I'm sorry. But today we're talking about our white garden snails. And I actually had a lot of videos planned for these snails. So you see, I wanted to breed them. I got my hands on 3, and I wanted to make a big colony of them. I started them out in a couple small things. I had like a separate place I was going to maybe move eggs and babies to. I really thought I had it figured out. And the main reason I wanted to breed these snails is, one, because gastropods are awesome. I love them. I have many gastropod fossils and even shells from, ocean snails and stuff. I'm a big snail fan, just right off the bat. But also, with the rise in popularity of things like Cuban false chameleons in the reptile hobby, I thought, hey, if I can keep snails and also breed and maybe get licensed to sell some snails, that would really help all these people at expos, because every expo I go to, and I go to expos pretty regularly. And by pretty regular, I mean every time there's one here in Atlanta, I go. Every single time. Usually in my Safari Sam hat, if you ever see me at one. But every expo, there's more and more Cuban false chameleons. And I was like, this is a good idea. They need snails. They have to be fed on snails and then brought on to other insects, often force-fed as babies, insects, which is difficult. And if someone can feed them snails their whole life, they might much rather do that. So we snail breeders should get going. And they were very pretty snails, so they made good pet snails, and they could make good feeder snails as well, especially when your population got out of control and you needed to thin the herd, because snails are hermaphroditic. They can breed with themselves and they can breed with each other. So if you have even one snail, it's very likely you'll get eggs. But that dream did not come to pass. The last video I made about the snails, they were in this little kind of arthropod enclosure, a little slightly arboreal one. And I kind of realized that the clamps on the lid, baby snails might actually be able to get through them. And luckily I hadn't had any babies yet. There were times where I thought I might have seen a baby, but I didn't, because they just really like to poop on the glass. I would always think the poops were babies, and then I'd have to clean it. But we never got to the baby phase. Because while I was looking the enclosure over and, cleaning the walls and stuff as usual, I saw a lot of little tiny bugs crawling around. Really, I think they're actually arachnids, technically. Mites. White snail mites. One of the worst enemies of snail keepers. And I was like, oh crap, my snails are gonna die, right? I'm terrified. And I'm trying my best here, folks. I really am. I'm picking out all the snails, going through the substrate, no eggs. They're likely not breeding because they're sick and full of parasites. So I take out the snails. I use washing instructions that I found online, Reddit, other places. Boil the substrate. Freeze the substrate. Wash the terrarium, or I guess vivarium. I'm doing everything I can to get rid of these white snail mites. Just short of, because there's actually a species of mite you can buy that is a predator of other mites, And then once they kill all the mites, they just kind of die themselves. They don't have food anymore, which kind of makes me sad. That's one reason I was trying to avoid doing that. But I didn't really get the chance because all three of my snails, I was unable to save them. I think they were just too far gone by the time I was really able to notice the mites. They were small snails and even smaller mites. And I was starting to actually think the breeder lied to me. I was told these were captive bred snails. After a couple generations, maybe even a few generations, actually maybe is more accurate, you're supposed to have bred the parasites out. I think these were wild caught. I think my breeder lied to me. I don't know, it's possible they didn't. I don't know, because I don't think that the white garden snails have an established population in Georgia. So I don't think that there would be any wild ones to catch, but I don't know, maybe they just didn't take good enough care of their snails. And I know that's a dumb thing for me to say, considering my snail colony collapsed and they all died, and I feel terrible about it. I really do, but I told you guys I wanted to make a bunch of snail videos. I was going to document breeding the snails, the babies growing up. I was going to document selling the snails, maybe even getting my own Cuban false chameleon. I know it's like a $200 or so lizard, but I've seen them going down in price. I still kind of want one. I actually was watching care videos for them today. This isn't an announcement about a Cuban false chameleon or anything. I just like lizards, folks. But I felt like you guys needed to know because you were there for the beginning of the snails, and if anyone liked those videos and wanted to see more, I felt like I owed an explanation, alright? I am sorry about that. I did not document the process of trying to save them. I know that would have probably been good content, but believe it or not, when my animals are hurting and dying, my first instinct is not to make content of it. My first instinct is to try to help them. So no, I did not record the process. I'm sorry. I know that would have been interesting, but I think it would have been a distraction from trying to save them. And I know ultimately it didn't work out. And it probably wouldn't have worked out any different if I did film it anyway. It would have just been a really sad video. Not that this isn't. It would have been more sad, probably, though. But that is it. Thank you all for tuning into this. I know it's not the normal kind of thing we do. I'm probably just going to show snail stock footage or old footage of my snails or something for this. I don't know. I didn't get a lot of good footage of my snails. I have a lot of good pictures of my snails, but that's all. So thank you all once again. I'll see you all next time. Bye for now.